back to the good old days. Let me take you back to the good old days. Let me take you back to the good old days. Oh, yeah. Let me take you back to the good old days. Let me take you back to the good old days. Let me take you back to the good old days. Let me take you back to the good old days. Let me take you back to the good old days.
Talofa lava malole soifua maua malelangi e mama. Ni sambole vinaka ke mani sakana we kanda mai biti. Hello everyone and welcome to Talanoa with Tupe. This is a show where we celebrate and highlight Pasifika's success in all its many forms. Each week we sit down with a different Pacific thought leader to hear about their journey and learn from their experience. Our guest today is Mary Soonaoso Tiumalu. Mary works in the Beehive as a private secretary. She is the co-founder of the Samoan professional women's collective, Taemā ma Tilafaigā, a recipient of the Prime Minister's Youth Award and a fashion designer for Fou Custom made. I'm looking forward to today's Talanoa because Mary is a woman with a busy career who is community focused and has a side hustle. Before we sit down with our guest, let's see how we go with our Blue Pacific quiz. How well do you know our region? Let's find out.
Kia ora.
Talofa lava.
My name is Tuasivi.
And my name is Telesia.
And we are members of
the Pacific Social Justice League. And we're going to give you a quiz on our Blue Pacific.
Let's go.
Can you tell us which country this flag belongs to?
Can you tell us the capital of this country?
Can you tell us the name of the leader of this country?
And lastly, can you tell us what currency they use in this country?
Stick around to the end of the show so we can compare our answers.
See you soon.
Thank you, Telesia and Tuasivi. Up next, it's our segment on Pacific literature presented by Leilani Tamu.
Alofa lava, whakalofa lahi atu, malo lelei. My name is Leilani Tamu. I'm a writer and an editor, and I'm passionate about Pasifika books. Today's book is Dreamfish Floating by my favorite poet, Carlo Mila. And this is her very first collection of poetry, and it was published in 2005. Dreamfish Floating is just a stunning collection in the way that Carlo traverses both the personal and political and talks to a range of issues about being Pasifika, growing up in Aotearoa and navigating her identity, but also speaking in lots of ways what I think of as truth to power. I'm going to read you just a little bit of one of my favorite poems, and you'll know why. The poem is For Albert Went on his birthday, and Albert, of course, is in many respects the godfather of Pacific literature. Here's the poem. You dare to fish beyond the coral reefs of our understanding. Your net pulls in poems, flicking salty tales. You find Nuanua in the eye of hurricanes. Celebrate thunder we prefer not to hear, and relish the quicksilver laughter of lightning. So that's just a taster. I highly recommend Dreamfish Floating and all of Carlo's work. Enjoy. If you like this review and you'd like to read more reviews, or you'd like to contribute a review yourself, please check out my website.
Whaftai lava Leilani. After the break, we're joined by Mary Soonaoso Tiumalu. Welcome back to Talanoa Tupe. We are here in the studio with Mary Soonaoso Tiumalu, who is a policy advisor and fashion designer working to unleash the confidence of Pacific peoples. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Thank you for having me, Tupe. It's so lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here and also to see the beautiful creation that you're wearing. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, it was a bridesmaid's dress. One of my good mates just said, yeah, go out there and wear, pick what you want to wear. So I wanted to have something light and airy. It was for an island wedding, so I thought I'll showcase it again tonight.
Awesome. I want to get into your career as a fashion designer. But first I want to start at the beginning.
Awesome.
So you've described yourself as the product of the migrant dream. Can you tell us a bit about your background?
I say product of migrant dream. It was a dream, obviously a lot of people can resonate with it, but it was a dream of my forefathers, my grandparents, not necessarily my parents. They kind of had to migrate for the bigger purpose, but because of that, because of their travel, I've been able to be real privileged in what I've been able to do. So when I say it very, very, I'm real grateful and thankful for that opportunity. I grew up in a family of four, the youngest of four, in a small town called Waterview. Our house, we grew up in one of those state homes. My parents laboured with love, worked many, many hours, and my siblings, you know, while they were, I guess I just say that they were a lot of my role models. They gave me their $5, the last $5 that they had, so I could achieve my dream. So yeah, I had a really, really, really special childhood. I would play outside a lot, and that inspired my journey, I guess. I went to Auckland Girls Grammar School, studied at the University of Auckland, did a bit of work in the Pacific, and now I'm here. So yeah, I guess that's just a blurb of aspects of my life.
I think that's really beautiful that you have such a nice relationship with your siblings. Yeah, when I was growing up, my parents always told me that greatest gift that we could give them was to love each other.
Oh, 100%. I totally believe that. So shout out to my siblings. Thank you for all that you've been able to do for me, and I know that they continuously inspiring me to be better. Yeah.
So with that background, you went on to study at the University of Auckland and you studied law.
Yeah.
So what was behind your decision to get into policy rather than practice law?
I came out of university like any other students, a little bit nervous, and so I had a little bit of money that I had received with a scholarship, and I wanted to do something meaningful with that money. So I booked a ticket to Fiji, and I ended up working for an NGO called Save the Children there. I was the legal officer, but a lot of the time I was having to review a lot of their laws and policies. When I went into the communities, you could see the impacts that these laws and also the policy decisions were impacting on the children, especially not affording maximum protection for them. And so it just heightened a love for me around the power of policy to influence how laws are constructed to protect children. And so I knew that moment I was like, okay, we need more in policy. And so I came back to New Zealand, and you know, the law is always going to be there, and if I want to practice, I can. That's the beauty of education and being able to do law. But I just knew that in my heart there's ways that you can influence and change what we're all trying to change, have access to better policies that help us with our lives. And so that's why I sort of landed in there. It was a love from how I saw it impact children in Fiji. So yeah, that's probably why I decided to do policy.
That sounds like a really powerful experience.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about law is that it's a very versatile degree.
100%.
And in my own experience, I did a law degree as well, and then went into policy. You learn a lot of skills which you can apply to a lot of different fields. Yeah. So, given that you come from a very close-knit family, and then you moved to Wellington, how did you find the move, and was that a difficult decision for you to make?
It was an easy decision, get out of Auckland. No, my parents encouraged me to go, definitely. it was, you know, you miss them, but they're literally an hour flight away. The beauty of having technology right now, you can FaceTime as much as you possibly can, social media. So there's always that connection. Never going to beat the face-to-face and being with them and being in the presence of them, but I'm real lucky to have a supportive family to let me go. It was a relatively easy decision to come to Wellington. Yeah.
And have you enjoyed living in Wellington?
Yep. I'm still a blues fan at heart, but Wellington's been real. I like the culture here. I like how you can be in the hustle and bustle of the city, but then go out and it's quite quiet. So yeah, you sort of get the best of both worlds being in Wellington. Thoroughly enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, I quite like that Wellington is compact. Yeah, and as you say, you get the best of both worlds. Yeah. So tell us about working for the Ministry of Pacific Peoples and then being seconded to the Beehive. Like, how was that experience, especially during lockdown?
It's been a learning experience. I think I'm always open to learn a lot of things. So I've gone from sort of one stressful environment to another stressful environment. So it's trying to navigate the spaces individually. Working in the Beehive during lockdown was probably a huge challenge for a lot of people. We're always used to being in the office, but having to shift and pivot the way we work to online has been quite a challenge. But what I found is that if we're collectively working together, it's quite manageable, and it's also enabled a whole set of skills for a lot of different people. The pressure, and I guess, to make sure that while we're online, that a lot of the information gets down to our communities has been quite challenging. But it's been, like I said, a learning experience for a lot of people, especially myself, in how we translate information for our communities. Yeah.
And there has been a lot of translation. I mean, usually when in policy, when we talk about translating the information for the public, we're talking about making it into plain English. But for MPP, a lot of it's been about translating into our different Pasifika languages.
Yeah. It's been a learning experience, I guess, for the public sector across, I would say, is that we can't just be putting out messages for one sort of audience. We've got a diverse community, and even in Pasifika itself, 9 different languages that we're trying to accommodate for. So having to do that has been quite challenging, but it's been enlightening for a lot of, I guess, the public sector, but for the community as well. And they find confidence and confidence in the messages that are being relayed, especially if it's in their language.
So if I could just come back to your siblings. So you talked about coming from a very close-knit family, and I feel like you've taken it to another level in the sense that you've started a business together. So can you tell us about Fou Custom Made and the ethos of the label?
So my sister and I, Nora, we've always loved fashion. Like, we've got a depository of clothes that has stretched years. Like, I look here and these are all, you know, some of the taonga, the mea that you carry. A lot of it is clothing for my sister and I. So we wanted to do something with it. We wear Pacific wear all the time. And so we wanted to, like, further it and give that sort of opportunity to a lot of others. And so with our brother Aso, who is a close friend, like, you know, we decided to start Fou, which means new, a new way of I guess being confident in who you are. Like many fashion labels, they're trying to make people feel confident in who you are, but it's essentially trying to platform that Pacific wear, Pacific patterns is that you can be comfortable wearing that you can be comfortable wearing something that might not necessarily be seen as fashionable or to the normal eye. So we're all about leading with our values, the respect that we have when clients come in, the value and the alofa that we put towards the fabrics that we chose, and the respect that we put into actually making the garment to custom make. So I guess the spirit is collective of what Fou is, and it's empowering women to really, really just be comfortable in wearing something, and that they can wear Pacific wear and be comfortable in that. So yeah, that's sort of where Fou has sort of birthed a love that we've had to really help empower others. Yeah.
And so what are the different skills that your siblings bring to the table, and yourself included?
So obviously we have to have an eye for what fabrics that we kind of have to to pick. Obviously the technical skills around sewing and all of that, and also just being able to build the relationship with the person. Sometimes someone would come in and want to wear something, but we have to be honest and open with them around their body shape, and that's where, you know, we really build that relationship with them, and they walk away feeling, oh my goodness, if they didn't tell me, you know, I would have just been wearing something that doesn't elevate who I am. And so a lot of those skills are people skills, obviously the technical skills as I mentioned, but it's a whole body of love and a collective effort to make someone feel like that they're worthy of wearing that garment. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Just in terms of like your own approach to fashion, so you have to work in a professional environment during your day job, and usually professional wear means, you know, black and grey suits.
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
I think it comes from just having a real confidence in who I am, and not being scared to walk into a space where they're all wearing suits and I'm wearing like the most outrageous outfit. But I find strength in that, and my approach is always that you're going in there with an armour of your people's voices, and I think you should hone into that. So before they even ask me who I am, they sort of can identify that I am from a Pacific community, or I am, and that's just with what I'm wearing. And then as soon as they hear who I am, it's giving them another layer of, oh wow, she's bringing a lot more to the table than anything else. And I use it as a strength mechanism, really. People are like, oh goodness, you're trying to be over the top. But I'm like, no, actually, as soon as they start to talk to me, because I can pinpoint any outfit that I'm wearing of who I've got it from. These earrings are from a small business, Koloa, you know what I mean? And then that opens up a whole depository of conversations that can happen. And so for me, fashion has always been, all my garments that I go into really is trying to strengthen the conversations at the table. And so I take that approach in anything I wear. And sometimes I kind of get it wrong, but that's okay as long as I feel confident in what I'm bringing to the table.
Yeah. I think that's so courageous and like such an amazing insight for you to have quite early on in your career, right? Because for me, it took me a very long time to feel like I could wear a pulatasi to work. Oh, you know?
I know. But it's good that you are, and like, you know, it's just the way that I guess the society was set up, that we'd have to, this is what professional is. But we look around and we've always been conducting ourselves with professionalism. I think about the matai who sit in the fale, like, you know, they're conducting themselves in a really respectful and professional way, but they're probably just wearing a iwhaikanga or something. So what's to say that that's not relevant in the space that we call profession? So yeah, it's been a learning experience, but an eye-opener. And one thing that I can say is that I'm finding that a lot more people are wearing their puletasi, their tauvala. A lot of them are being real comfortable to do that, and I love it. I love it.
I think it's awesome because it's changing perceptions of what a professional looks like. And as you say, because we've always been conducting ourselves in a professional manner, in a respectful manner. Cool. Okay, so I want to delve more into this, but first we've got to take a short break.
That's all good, sweet.
Welcome back to Talanoa Tupe. We're here in the studio with Mary Soonaoso Tiumalu. So Mary, we're just reflecting over the break about how formal Pasifika formal wear has made its way into secondary schools and also into sports teams. What do you think about that transition?
I think it's awesome. You know, we already know that more and more of our youth are born here. Like I think the stats 60% are now born in New Zealand. So they recognise New Zealand as their home, but they're always going to have ties to the Pacific and to the Pacific region. So having to navigate both worlds, it allows the space. I guess what I'm trying to say is that when the spaces are reflective of who they are, it gives them a lot more confidence. So I'm all for it. I'm all for them wearing their earfike. I can't wait to find a school that has all puletasi as the uniform. That would be quite cool. So yeah, I'm definitely all for it, and it's awesome to see the movement happen. Yeah.
Speaking about youth and cultural identity, can you tell us a little bit about your approach to Samoan language?
So I'm constantly trying to learn. I'm on a learning journey myself, I try and engage as much as I can with things that happen in my family, listening to the matai, and also breaking down sort of perceptions that I've had. An example for it is that when I go to a wedding and I always see the two matai stand up, I think they're like, asking for money or something like that. But the practicing whaakau, and it's often it's about giving the honour to the family. So for me, learning about that and breaking down what I once perceived has also opened up the space for me to want to continue learning. And so I do a bit of work for Ngā Whenua Tele, Lawhitanga Mawhauwhau, who runs Samoan language classes, and it's been the most invigorating experience. I hope I said that right. And it's been one that, has made me constantly want to learn and also give access to others to learn.
Yes.
And I think what the beauty of that is that we're trying to show young people that your culture can be accessible and you can learn it. So we're having to translate a lot of different things in multiple mediums. So we have the face-to-face, but we also have a strong online engagement plan, and then we also have digital resources to sort of make it palatable for people to learn. So again, like I said, it's a learning experience for me, but one that I'm hoping to allow others to feel like they can access it too. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I follow all of Ngā Whenua Tele's stuff, and I'm enrolled in her classes, and I just think that it's amazing to have this resource. Because I'm on a learning journey myself, and for a very long time I felt like it's not that the desire was lacking, it was the resources and access to resources that was lacking for me.
And it's also trying to meet the need for young people. They want to see things instantly, and so how do we teach a practice like whaakau that happens in weddings or situations in a way that is, again, palatable for them and instant. So we're constantly learning. I feel like we're old school, trying to navigate the new school, but when we bring that together, my gosh, like wonders can happen and magic, and it sort of breaks that sort of, I guess, intergenerational gap that we harp on quite a lot about. It's one of the mediums to be able to do that.
If we could just come back to your policy work. So how has that been for you, moving to Wellington and working in policy, which I think for me, I didn't realise until I got here just how non-diverse that policy space can be sometimes. How have you navigated being a Pasifika woman working in a non-diverse space?
It's been challenging, to be honest, but it's also been one where, okay, if I'm going to play this game, well, the mainstream kind of game where it's, I guess, lacking in our voices, I'm going to have to try and really upskill myself to understand it. So it's, understanding how, I guess, like you've got experience to bear, is understanding what the layout of the law of the land, I guess, is in policy, and trying to see how we can influence that with the Pasifika way of doing things. And so navigating these spaces has been quite challenging for me, but it's also been quite empowering because I'm armed with a lot of our community's voices. And it's kind of like people are, oh my gosh, are sort of open, but are so challenged by our voices. I don't know why, but I guess it's an area where I feel like representation is key, and the leadership is key in terms of really pushing our community's voices there through into policy, I guess. But yeah, it's been challenging to say the least, but it's also been quite, I guess, an opportunity to really push and advocate hard. It's just been, I would say challenging the most, but empowering to keep pushing forward.
And what are the strategies that you've used to respond to the challenges?
I take a real values-based approach. I really, I'm guided by a lot of the things that I've grown up around respect, around love. And respect doesn't mean like you can't have a say. It's about respecting the space that you're in, and also making sure that when you say something, you say it in a way that's respectful to your people. Because the last thing I want is to speak on experiences that I haven't experienced, but to really try and bring that voice forward and amplify other voices. And so I really take a values-based approach when I engage in these discussions. And sometimes I win, sometimes I don't. But if I know that I'm always completely true with who I am and intentional, then I can walk away feeling that I've left everything on the table. I take a really values-based approach when I'm engaging in tough discussions.
I think it's really, you mentioned that when you're sitting at the table, you're bringing along all of the voices of the community with you. And I think that that's probably, really powerful insight and impetus to add your voice and to engage in those
Yeah.
discussions.
It's also quite, I'm real mindful of that as well. Like, I don't want to be, taking an opportunity away from someone's experience to be at that table, but sometimes you're the only person. And so you're having to, oh my goodness, you have to really make sure that that comes with you. But I'm real conscious about making sure that I amplify the voices, but when I need to, but also give the space for others. And so that's something that I always am conscious about when I'm walking into these spaces, that you're there representing them, but you have to really try and bring that person in as well. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah. So it's not a substitute for doing consultation for really finding out and listening to the people who have lived experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for people who are contemplating a career in policy?
We need you at the table, and we need you is literally my advice. But just to always be willing to learn, but always be willing to listen. And I think sometimes we can come in, so like, I've got all the answers, but you need to be able to like really be open and empathetic to the experiences of others. That's how, like, I guess policy works. If you're guided by the true experiences of people and trying to navigate how to write that for, I guess, for decision makers for decisions to be made, you have to be really willing to come down and listen and really be open to engaging with your community. I'm a policy advisor, but I'm a community at heart, and I'm always out there, and I'm always trying to upskill and learn. And that isn't necessarily to say that, it's not, I guess just really be open to engage with your community, but also really take that along with you in policy. But yeah, definitely representation is key in policy. I know that there are a strong cohort in there right now, strong leaders of policy, but we need more, and we need to sort of, bring the next generation, or just the next people who are interested. I'm a firm believer in, like, even whatever age you are, you've got skills to come in and really be a policy advisor. Yeah.
So what's been the most rewarding part of being a policy advisor?
Just to see how the shift is happening in the system. There's a fight. We haven't got there yet. I can hand on heart say that there's so much learning that we have to do, and so much shift change, systems change we have to make. We're hearing the stories that are happening in South Auckland right now with young people having to leave their school to get jobs, and so there's a community response, but there's also a systems response. So we need to really make sure that we're listening. It's hard work, but it's the most, the most rewarding thing is when you see that people are starting to respond and be like, hey, we need to listen and we need to act. Because the system is hard.
Yes.
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's really important to think about, because there's a tendency to put everything on the individual or on, the family or community. And that is empowering, because there are things that we can do to help ourselves.
Yeah.
But there are systems changes that are needed to give everyone
Definitely.
the best chance and to level the playing field.
Definitely. Yeah. I agree.
So for you have your day job where you are working to improve the lives of people in our community, and then you have your side hustle. How do you, which is about, empowering people in their fashion sense. How do you find the balance between the two, or does it just feel like you're working 24/7?
To be honest, I don't know what balance is. I think I shared a tweet or something. I'm like, oh goodness, I feel like I'm working 24/7. But I'm always driven by, I know that there's always going to be a sacrifice, and there isn't a clear-cut way of balancing things. But I liked what you said about a rhythm, because I feel like I've got a rhythm. I've got, doing the work, but also being able to do things on the side and having some family time. So it's a rhythm that constantly changes for me. And so the one thing that I'm guided by is knowing what my moral purpose is that to really kind of leave some positive change, whatever that looks like. And so it doesn't really feel like I'm working 24/7. There isn't any balance, but there's rhythm. So I take that as, I hope people can learn that it's whatever rhythm that you have and it works for you, go for it. So that's why I would describe it. I don't really have a balance, but I have rhythm.
And so tell us about the Samoan Professional Women's Network.
Oh yes, Taemā Tilafaigā. It started as I think about a couple of years ago, and it was just bringing Samoan women together. We didn't want to come across as separatists, but I think there's a power in ethnic specific initiatives, and this was like we could conduct ourselves the Samoan way, the Samoan woman way, and feel comfortable. So I brought together about 40 or so women from across the sector. It wasn't just public, it was private, the art sector, sport sector, film and TV, just to share Talanoa and experiences. And the beauty of that is that we've created a collective where we can come together and give some feedback on what people are working on. So I've seen, Utu, Rosemary go into leadership roles, and she's been able to share that learning experience. We've seen Yoka bring in, who works at the Auckland Art Gallery, bring in more Pacific representation in the art space. So it's learning from each other's experiences, but being guided by Samoan values and principles of really supporting each other, but also protecting each other's work. So shout out to all of you out there, Taemā Tilafaigā.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. When are you going to open a Wellington
I know,
chapter?
everyone's asking me, but I'm like, oh, maybe Tupe can start it. Yeah.
Next project.
Next project.
Yeah. So for you, what is the ultimate goal in your policy work, in your fashion, and in your community advocacy?
Yeah. My ultimate goal is that I can walk away and the community are thriving for policy that it's just the norm to include Pacific voices at the table. And for fashion, just to always be creative, just to continue being creative. I want to be out of a job, to be honest. I want to be for the public sector that we all can just walk away. And it's just the norm. It's just the norm is all our voices are at the table, and we experience, and policy is written for everyone. And for the community is that they're thriving on their own. We have a lack of, I guess I don't want to say there are communities out there that have been able to sustain themselves, but a lot of the times it takes a lot of work to sustain an initiative long term. So to be able to provide them with the tools and the skills to be able to be sustainable and enduring in their initiative is an ultimate goal. And then for fashion, I guess, we've done a couple of runways, so it'll be cool to see what, a world, I guess a larger stage, maybe New York Fashion Week, but who knows, we'll see.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Sounds like there are really big things to come.
Yeah, thank you.
So I have a series of quickfire questions that I'm going to ask you now.
Jeez, I'm nervous now.
Okay. So what's your go-to karaoke song?
Whitney Houston. Any Whitney Houston song.
I Will Always Love You.
I will always love you. Can't reach the notes,
Coming
but
up
hey,
next.
you try.
Who was the most influential Pasifika person you knew of growing up?
My mum.
If you weren't in your current profession, what would you be doing now?
I wanted to get into actually something creative. Yeah, creativity, sewing, fashion. Yep.
If you could invite any 3 people in history to a family dinner, who would it be and why?
Damn. These are 3. Goodness. My grandfather, who I didn't get to meet, so it'd be good to hear how my mum was when she was a child. Whitney Houston, kind of just be like, girl, you're so talented and everything like that. Just want to hear, I guess, her journey. And me, oh man, the last one. Gosh, these are hard, eh? These are really, really hard. Probably someone that was part of the Mau movement in Samoa, maybe someone there to hear their leadership during that time. Yeah.
And the last one, how do you want to be remembered?
Just as a good person, someone that is good to others. Good person.
It's a really worthy aspiration. Mary, thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your insights on policy and your approach to fashion.
Yeah.
I think we all learned a lot today. In our next segment, we talk about one of the most important jobs we can do, which is, of course, parenting. Let's hear from the Martin Hautus Foundation Trust, which has been running parenting courses for the last 10 years.
My name is Maretta Solomon and I'm Telesia Solomon-Mua. And so for the last 10 years we've been delivering a parenting program that focuses on a different idea each week to help our parents build more positive communication and bond with their children, because parenting is the most important job that one will ever do. However, our precious gifts do not come with a manual, so that's our aim each week, to build more positive communication and bond. The tip for this week is to catch your child being good and praise them straight away, because we're very quick to point out the wrong things that they are doing. So make it your goal to catch your child being good and praise them straight away.
Thank you for joining us. If you would like to know more about Martin Hautus Foundation Trust,
you can like our Facebook page and see the details on the screen.
Thank you for that tip. Sometimes it's really hard to know what to say when you're tired or stressed, so it's really useful to think about these communication strategies ahead of time.
Welcome back to the PSJL quiz.
Let's compare our answers.
This flag is from the Solomon Islands.
The capital of the Solomon Islands is Honiara.
The currency of Solomon Islands is the Solomon Islands dollar.
The leader of the Solomon Islands is Prime Minister Manasseh Songavare.
Thank you for joining us and hope you did well.
If you want to join the Pacific Social Justice League, follow us on our social media platforms. Mother!
Thanks everyone for joining us today. Now to end our show, we have Soul Brown and the Soul Sisters. Whawhatai te le lava mo le tātou pulokalame le nei aso. Soifua ma ia manuia. See you next time on Talanoa with Tupe.
You and I know we ain't gonna see each other, and that's for sure. Should've told you now, wait, I don't know. But you stuck on my mind. When you walk by, you give me a smile with a sweet high. Baby, don't leave, stay with me tonight. I need you in my life, 'cause I've been struggling to put all the pieces together. But I was wondering if I could make your life that much better. Just if you give me a chance to love you, I promise I would do it right. I can get you satisfied. Just give me an explanation why you don't wanna be mine. Oh, I can give you some time, 'cause you are stuck up in my head. You should be with me instead of always searching. 'Cause you've been looking around, feeling down. Don't worry, I've been out. And hopefully I can make your life better. You and I can do it all together, you know that. You just need me in your life, 'cause you've been struggling to put all the pieces